Good morning, people, beautiful, faithful uh, people. Uh, my audience for this ad hoc, ranting, world famous program uh, on the internet. Very important point today. It is no longer a secret or mystery that NATO, EU, or European Union, US, many others are taking the back seat, playing dumb, looking the other way, scratching their head, uh, about Ukraine, the situation in Ukraine, or how is that pertinent or relevant to Europe in general, right? Uh, so by just being lethargic and sitting back and relaxing and watching the show as if they're watching a TV series, they are uh, helping Pustalenin. Uh, it is fog of deception. This is what they're doing is fog of deception, people. Uh, One day they tell you they're blockading Kaliningrad, right? Oh, really? What does that do to Russia? Oh, the next day they're de-swifting some, but in fact, reality is this is a smoke screen, folks. Money is being exchanged back and forth between Russia and between the post-Stalinese and the West and so on and so forth. It's bullshit, folks. How can you verify that? You cannot, right? But there's a way to verify it. If Russia is de-swifted, Russia will collapse. Russia's currency, the ruble, will collapse basically. If Russia is really isolated, if there are real sanctions on Russia, they would have collapsed already. So this is a smoke screen. Now they announced something else like a couple of days ago that they are banning import of gold from Russia. Now I'm scratching my head. How much does Russia export in gold? How much gold does Russia export? I think nothing, almost nothing. Maybe a couple of bars here and there, and guess what? They can pay cash for them, right, from somewhere else. Uh, Fact of the matter is, NATO, uh, EU, USA, ECB, and are not just sitting back and hoping for Pustalenin to take over Ukraine and later Europe. Uh, Rather, they are helping them. In fact, they are helping Russia. When you look at the size of Russia, like the largest country in the world, but it's not really. I mean, uh, Russia is no different from Germany, no different from Turkey, no different from Iraq, size-wise. Really, I mean, the vast majority of Russia is really empty. I mean, it's Siberia, right? So when you're shown that size of the country to be so large and so big, you would think that this is an overbearing country. It's not, folks. It's not. And that Russian Federation, if that Russian Federation is dissolved, all these republics will become independent. Some did actually. Russia would be very small, folks. Subject is very simple. NATO, EU, and whoever it is are not changing their stance and position on what's going on. Russia is being helped by those folks, China, Japan, Gulf Arab countries, United States, Fed in the United States, stock market in the United States. Israel is on top of that, basically propagating and promoting this Russia takeover of Europe and so on. Not just that, they're, they're lately, they're showing some kind of, there are the signs of desperation, like launching a missile against a mall and like killing civilians and so on. This is a sign of desperation, folks. And make no mistake about it. This is not a mistake, folks. This is real. They're trying to warn you that if you continue, they're trying to warn you and scare you that that's what they will do if they don't take over Ukraine. I said before and I'll say it again. Pustalenin will defend the Iran regime, will defend the Syria's regime, will defend the Northern Alliance of Afghanistan, will defend the Chinese regime, will defend Israel, will defend the Arab Gulf countries regime, will defend General Sisi's regime in Egypt and here and there to the death. But you Ukrainians who are like them in almost like them in race and language and so on, he is killing you and he will continue to do so. His consideration for you, you white Europeans, are no different from those to the Sunnis. Don't be deceived by that smoke screen or fog of deception that is being blown over the world by those establishments and the media and don't folks. This is as bad as it gets. But here's a warning for Germans. And I advise you Germans to go watch a movie called A Woman in Berlin. And you know, this is only a glimpse of what happened to Germany in the last century, right? And far more, far worse happened there. The firestorm and so on. It is unbelievable. And history repeats itself, folks. Communism in the last century and its horrors and its sister Nazism and the horror of the last century is exactly reproduced by the same people who brought Mongols onto the scene in the Muslim world. And had the Mongols not been defeated by the Muslims, they would have been in Europe by now and they would have committed genocides and atrocities and those of you who know history for what it really is know what the Mongols did about 900 years ago. This is the same thing, folks. This is what's happening in the last century has been prepared for a long time. And what's happening in Europe now has been in the development and research and decision and preparations for decades. I don't know, 20 years, 30 years. But Germans, get up and fight. Germans, what's coming your way? Now, you may say, well, look, it's faltered. Don't settle back for what happened in the last 4 months. True, there was a miracle happened in Ukraine, right? But you can't sit back and relax, folks. Get up and fight. Get up and get ready to fight. What's coming your way is what happened to you in the last century. And I would wager, and I would bet, 10 times as bad as what happened to Germans in the last century. Germans, get up and fight. Germans, get up and get ready. Scandinavians, get up and fight. Scandinavians, get up and get ready. You may say this guy's, doom and gloom and so on. Guess what? You probably said the same thing about what I was saying 4 months ago or even earlier than that. What do you think now, right? I see what you done, and the future for Europeans is bleak. And the divine intervened and then stopped that advance. But now the establishments of Europe, the hegemony of that umbrella of Israel, is trying to keep you down. And now the latest trick is to get Finland and Sweden into NATO. Take my advice, Swedes and Finnish, don't go into NATO. They will dictate your policy. They will dictate to you that you should appease Pustalenin. They will tell you not to escalate and believe me. Because Pustalenin failed to take over you as a country. Now the Pustalenin brothers of NATO and EU want to take over you from the other side. It's like a vice, right? Those vices, that mechanical shop vices, like you rotate the arm and then they squeeze and then they hold tight something that is in the middle while you do the work, like whether it's wood or metallic work or whatever it is. That's what NATO is. And EU, they are the same establishment as that of Pustalenin and communism and Nazism before that and so on. And I warn you, if you don't reconsider the future is bleak either way, folks. It seems to me like You're being given no choice, no way of escape, no way of exit, no way of making your own point, no way of defending yourself, and so on. All that bullshit that has been uttered by, whether it's by Biden or whoever it is, about defense and Russia and Boris Johnson and so on, all bullshit, folks, all lies, all deceptions, smoke screens, spin zones, deceptions, and fog of deception. That's all there is to it, folks. You can see it, you know. Uh, if Russia proved so weak and hollow in 4 months of fighting in Ukraine, and now they're killing civilians, well, they have been killing civilians from the get-go. What do you think will happen to Russia if real weapons came into the theater, or if United States military bears down on the Russian military? Guess what? It's very obvious, folks. Then again, watch that movie, A Woman in Berlin. I really encourage you. It's free. It's on YouTube. Just search for it. It's about 2 hours. And it was written by a German woman who decided to be anonymous. I think people know who it is. But she only scratched the surface of what happened in Germany. What happened in Germany is horror, and is bound to happen again, probably 10 times as bad. Germans, whether you're in government, whether you're intelligence agencies, whether you owe your people this warning, you owe your people to warn them about the impending danger that is coming from the east, that is crawling from the east toward you. It's no different from what happened last century, probably 10 times as bad, and it's no different from what happened when the Mongols came and invaded the Muslim world. I'll tell you what, you may think, the Mongols, were defeated by the Muslims and so on and so forth. It is your duty, folks, to make sure that that kind of invasion of hordes don't come your way. And you're lucky, you're European, you're lucky that the Turks were Muslims when they invaded Europe. Why? Because now they're humanistic, right? They consider you human beings, just like Friedrich Nietzsche, that German prophet said about Muslims and Christians. He said to the Jews, Muslims, and Christians, I think, don't quote me word for word, are the same. There's no difference between them for the Jew, right? But he said about the Muslims that Muslims at least consider us men, right? Had the Turks been non-Muslims, similar to the Mongols, guess what? Europe, you will be like ravished into hell. And they will have reached into Western Europe. Why? Because they're not into all the way to the Atlantic. Why? Because the Mongols were basically burning and mass murdering people, while the Turks didn't do that, right? The Turks kept your freedom as a Christian. Turks where you shared their society and right outside of battle, of course. They're vicious in battles. Well, everybody is vicious in battle. But had the Turks been like the Mongols, non-Muslims, Europe will be burned by them and not left to what it is. But that's coming now, folks. That communism in Moscow, that lizard eye cabal in Moscow, that's coming now. Well, it's not coming. I said it's not coming, neither will happen, because I believe those Europeans, whites, French, well, French are like caramel, they're mixed, right? Beautiful. Okay. Spanish, Italians, Eastern Europe. I think they will fight. But now the trick is, you don't need to wait until they're over your streets and in your houses and in your cities. If you wait until then, you will fight valiantly, but then your fight is futile. Why? Because they're already there. Germans, Scandinavians, get up and fight, get up and get ready. And if you're in their government, in their establishment, I don't care how loyal you are to Israel or whoever it is, and they want you to destroy your country and you're willing to do so, maybe deep down inside you love your nation, those Germans, those Scandinavians, maybe deep down inside you do, but you can't say much about it. But it's your duty to warn them now. What will you do if Russia takes over your country and they begin the slaughter like last century? What, like wake up and gloat about it? Some of you would probably feel guilty. Why would you want to archive at that point? You may say that Russia is not doing in Ukraine what they did in Syria and Chechnya and so on, so they will not do that to you in Germany. No, folks. There's only one reason they're not doing what they're doing in Ukraine, and that is they don't want to rouse your anger in Western Europe that what they're doing is like to Ukraine, just like they're doing to the cities of Syria, right? Then you will rise up, and the establishments there will be in a corner, right? They cannot wait anymore to fight back and say that's what's coming our way. So it's psychological, folks. But if big if, colossal if, astronomical if, and now it's a figment of Pustalenin's imagination. If they take over Europe, once they're done, then the killing will start. How? Well, you saw when Pustalenin and Lenin and Stalin, the two brothers, right, took over. Then afterwards, they started the killing. Same thing, folks. First, they take over, and once their roots are struck and they're like their legs, their strong legs are clutched onto the over the shoulder and on the necks of Europeans, and they make sure that nobody can rise up against them. That's when they start the killing. Same thing was done by Ayatollah Khomeini when he came to Iran the first year. People thought, oh, they were free from the Shah, and so on and so forth. As soon as he was like firm in there in that house, right? He murdered hundreds of thousands, and the very same people who shouldered the revolution, he got rid of them right there and then from the top down all the way down. And once that happened, guess what? Iran became a war machine. Iran-Iraq war, millions died. And now they're dying in the hundreds of thousands and the thousands in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and here and there. And there's no end in sight, folks. You too, Europeans, what happened in the last century? In the communist revolution? Consider the commas. If, and that's a big if, right? If Russia takes over Europe, it's like a new communist revolution in Europe, just like the last century. Have a nice day, my friends. And I pray, no matter who you are, listening to this, if you ever value even an iota size in your heart, if you ever value your people in Western Europe and Europe in general, okay? And know what this hell that is crawling from the east, the lizard-eye cabal of Moscow. If you value your people, if you value your history, if you value your heritage, if you value humanity and learning, you would warn them up. You would warn your people now and then. Germans, get up and fight. Scandinavians, get up and fight. Germanics, Dutch, you, whoever you are, get up and fight. French, don't wait until this hell comes into Europe, because your future is bleak. Have a nice day, my friends. And although I know and I'm sure that will not happen, but hey, I pray it won't.